Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel AglaSem School. So today in this video we are going to cover NCERT solutions for the subject English, and the class which we are doing is class 10th. We are doing a new chapter, that is chapter number 1, A Triumph of Surgery, and the book which we are covering is Footprints Without Feet. So let's start with the very first topic, that is read and find out from page number 1. So guys, open your book to page number 1. Here question 1 says, why is Mrs. Pumphrey worried about Tricky? So the answer is Mrs. Pumphrey was worried and distraught because Tricky would not eat anything. It even refused its favorite dishes. It had bought of vomiting. It spent all its time lying on the rug and panting. It did not want to go for walks or do anything. Let's come to the next question, that is question number 2, which says, what does she do to help him? Is she wise in this? So the answer for the same is, she called the doctor to help Tricky. Yes, her decision was wise. The doctor suggested that Tricky should be hospitalized. She swooned and wailed, but let the dog go with the doctor. Ultimately, the doctor was successful in curing Tricky. Let's come to question number 3. Who does I refers to in the story? So the answer is, in the story I refers to veterinary surgeon Mr. Harriet. Let's come to the next topic, that is read and find from next page, that is page number 3. So turn your book to page number 3. Here question number 1 says, is the narrator as rich as Tricky's mistress? So the answer is, through not clearly stated, there are instances in the story which suggest that the narrator is not as rich as Tricky's mistress, Mrs. Pumphrey. While the narrator is able to provide Tricky with a warm loose box as a bed, at Mrs. Pumphrey's house, Tricky has a day bed, a night bed, cushions, toys, rubber rings, a breakfast bowl, a lunch bowl, a supper bowl, a whole wardrobe or tweed coats, and perhaps many more things. When he arrives to take the dog with him, Mrs. Pumphrey has her entire staff at her disposal to transfer all the Tricky's belongings to the doctor's car. On hearing from the doctors about Tricky's gradual recovery, Mrs. Pumphrey sends along 24 eggs at a time, along with the bottles of wines and brandy, all in order to help in Tricky's speedy recovery. Finally, when she calls upon the narrator to take her recovered dog back home, she comes in a Chauffeur-driven 30 feet of gleaming black metal, an obvious reference to limousine. All these instances point to the fact that Mrs. Pumphrey lived a luxurious life. So this is all for question number 1. Let's move to question number 2 from the same page, page number 3, which says, how does he treat the dog? So the answer is, the doctor gave Tricky no food but plenty of water for 2 days. Slowly the dog started showing interest in his surroundings and began mixing with the other dogs at the surgery. On the 3rd day, the doctor saw Tricky licking the empty supper bowls of the other dogs. Next day, a separate bowl was kept for it, and the doctor was pleased to note that Tricky had run to eat its food with enthusiasm. From that day onwards, its progress was rapid. It did not require the medical treatment of any kind and recovered quite well at the end. Let's come to question number 3, which says, why is he tempted to keep Tricky on a permanent guest? So the answer is, the Pumphrey had started bringing around eggs to build Tricky's strength later. Even bottles of wines and brandy began to arrive. The narrator and his partner started enjoying the eggs, wine and brandy meant for Tricky. According to the narrator, they were days of deep content for them, starting with the extra egg in the morning, then the midday wine, and finally finishing the day with brandy. This was the reason why the narrator was tempted to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest. So this is all for question number 3. Now moving to question number 4, which says, why does Mrs. Pumphrey think the dog recovery is triumph of surgery? So the answer is, Mrs. Pumphrey thought that the dog recovery was a triumph of surgery because in 2 weeks Tricky had recovered completely and had been transformed into a hard muscle animal. When Tricky saw her, It leaped into her lap and licked her face. She was so excited that tears started rolling out of her eyes. She declared Tricky recovery as a triumph of surgery to express her happiness and gratitude towards the doctor. So guys, let's come to read and find out from page number 6. So turn the book to page number 6. Here question number 1 says, what kind of a person do you think the narrator, a veterinary surgeon, is? Would you say he is tactful as well as full of common sense? So the answer is the narrator is a full of common sense. He was very concerned for Tricky when he saw its appearance. He immediately told Mrs. Pumphrey to stop giving it food and sweet and to take it out for daily walks. When she called him to describe Tricky's deteriorating condition, he immediately took the dog with him to the surgery. He took good care of it all the while and helped it recover completely. He could be called tactful as he enjoyed the eggs, wines and brandy that Mrs. Pumphrey had brought for the dog. He was even tempted to keep Tricky as a permanent guest in order to continue enjoying these luxuries. However, he was a good man. Thus, he called Mrs. Pumphrey and told her to take the dog home when it had fully recovered. So this is all for question number 1. Let's come to question number 2. Do you think Tricky was happy to go home? What do you think will happen now? So the answer is yes, Tricky was very happy to go home. It jumped out to the narrator's arms and leaped into Mrs. Pumphrey's lap as soon as it saw her. It licked her and barked. After this, if Mrs. Pumphrey takes good care of the dog and does not feed it a lot, it will be as healthy as it is at the end of the story. Let's come to question number 3, which says, do you think this is a real life episode or mere fiction, or it is a mixture of both? So the answer is this story could be a mixture of both real life episode and mere fiction. The spoiling of a dog's health by the rich mistress is believable and could also be in a real life incident. The doctor advice also depict real life situation. However, the extremely speedy recovery of the dog could be fictitious. Also, the enjoyment of luxuries, eggs, wine and brandy by the narrator could be termed as a real life episode, as there are people who would do so. The giving up of these luxuries because the owner of the dog would be getting worries is another episode that could be both real life and fiction. At the end, the happiness of Mrs. Pumphrey on seeing her dog healthy seems to be real life happening. Therefore, the story is a mixture of both real life and fiction. So this is all for question number 3 and the video 2. If you like our video, then don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with your friends to get updated for more NCERT solutions. Hope you guys enjoy the video, and the most important part for the video is that don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, that is AglaSem School. We'll see you soon in the next video. Till then, take care, stay safe, bye bye.